Welcome to the Israel Daily News Podcast. I'm your host, Shanna Fold, and I'm here to get you caught up quickly. I've got some top news stories for you today from Israel, and guess what? You're listening, so you're already on top of your game. Survive and thrive, people. Knowledge is the best weapon. Today is Thursday, March 20th, 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and the 20th of Adar, 5785 in the Hebrew calendar. Now, let's get to the news. War is back on between Israel and Gaza. The ceasefire broke at midnight on Tuesday, March 18th, as Israeli forces entered Gaza to resume fighting. Shrapnel landed in multiple areas of Rishon LeZion after the rocket siren sounded, but no injuries were reported. We had a 4:15 a.m. wake-up when the siren rang out and everyone ran for cover. We knew that it was the Houthis because the Houthis have been attacking us in the middle of the night and in the early mornings. This affected most of the country's center, including Jerusalem. According to Magen David Adom Emergency Services, there were no injuries due to these impacts, but 13 people got hurt while running for shelter. 3 others were treated for anxiety. MDA urges the public to stay alert and follow home front command guidelines during these sirens. So that was overnight. And then specifically in Tel Aviv on Thursday, daytime, sirens blared as 3 rockets were fired from Khan Yunis, Gaza, in the afternoon, with 1 intercepted by the Iron Dome and 2 landing in open spaces. Reports from Gaza indicate intense airstrikes in the northern region with heavy artillery fire. Going back to how we got into this place. Letting the ceasefire end on Tuesday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the IDF strike after determining that Hamas's, quote, repeated refusal to release more hostages was the reason for going back in. Since announcing the overnight strikes, Netanyahu's office said Israel will, quote, act against Hamas with increasing military strength moving forward. The Army and Air Force are striking terror targets belonging to the Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror organizations across the Gaza Strip. This includes terror cells, launch posts, weapons stockpiles, and military infrastructure meant to attack Israeli civilians and IDF soldiers. The army says these resources were meant to be used in upcoming assaults on Israel. And the word on the street is that Hamas was about to move forward and conduct another invasion of Israel, but were foiled due to the strike. This latest operation is being called Oz Vecherev. Politically speaking, former National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and his party Otzma Yehudit say they're rejoining the Netanyahu coalition. They left 2 months ago when they did not get their way on the war strategy and hostage releases. The ceasefire we came out of on Tuesday was brokered on January 15th, went into effect on January 19th, and then was recently maintained for about 2.5 extra weeks after it technically ended with the last hostage release. But then it was quiet with no movement, and Israel decided to strike because they weren't making progress with more hostage releases. U.S. President Donald Trump was integral in securing the deal after months of deadlock in the previous administration. The Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza reports that 326 fatalities happened. Among those killed are senior Hamas officials, including the Director General of Hamas's Interior Ministry, 3 Hamas political bureau members, one of which was very senior, the head of Hamas's internal security, and the Director General of Hamas's Justice Ministry. Then the IDF said they eliminated Hamas's general security apparatus, who had been the replacement for someone who was eliminated in July in that role, along with the head of Hamas's government in Gaza. The role of a general security apparatus is to seek out, quote unquote, collaborators, which is essentially a role that is meant to push down and silence, using force and violence, anyone who opposes Hamas, as well as organizing terror attacks within Israel. Israeli security sources estimate that hundreds of Hamas militants were killed since Tuesday, including some who are believed to have been involved in the abuse of Israeli hostages. Reports say Israel wants to give Hamas an opportunity to advance negotiations toward a deal, or at least toward another phase of hostage releases. The operation includes missile ships from Israel's Navy. Their vessels struck Hamas targets near the Gaza coast as well. The IDF began targeting ground operations in the central and southern Gaza Strip, taking control and expanding positions up to the Netzarim route. That started on Wednesday. The Golani Brigade has positioned itself in the south and is prepared for action. The Israel Defense Forces launched the ground operation in northern Gaza on Thursday, which marks the first time that troops have entered this area since the January ceasefire. The move followed overnight airstrikes. In response, Hamas fired rockets at central Israel for the first time since October, with the Iron Dome missile defense system intercepting one and letting two others land in open areas. Reports indicate that the IDF distributed leaflets in Gaza warning residents to leave and urged cooperation in exchange for aid. Defense Minister Israel Katz warns that further military action would escalate unless Hamas released all the Israeli hostages and was removed from Gaza. Israel's defense minister urges Gaza residents to evacuate, warning that Israel will unleash, quote, unprecedented force if hostages aren't returned and Hamas isn't removed. The IDF has secured key positions in central and southern Gaza, with the Golani Brigade ready for further action, and that's a fighting unit. Israel's Home Front Command recommends the nation prepare their safe rooms and their protected spaces because we are likely going to need to use them. Lawmakers passed the Economic Arrangements Law in a 63-50 vote early Thursday after an all-night debate, which got broken up by the rocket attack. By the way, the bottom line is that they are moving forward with the 2025 state budget. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich highlighted major allocations for IDF reservists and war recovery efforts, insisting the economy remains strong despite ongoing conflict. Opposition lawmakers criticized the budget for preserving Orthodox funding while cutting 3 billion shekels, that's about $814 million US dollars, from ministries affecting public sector workers. The budget, totaling 619 billion shekels, that's about 169 billion US dollars, includes a 5 million shekel or $1.3 million discretionary coalition fund with significant increases for ministries previously deemed unnecessary. If the budget is not passed by March 31st, the Knesset will automatically dissolve, which will then call for new elections. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet voted late Thursday night about dismissing Shin Bet chief Ronen Bar, despite the Attorney General's warning that an advisory committee must approve the move. Well, we here at the Israel Daily News waited up, and at the end of the meeting, the government decided the decision to modify its decision regarding the dismissal of Shin Bet director Ronen Bar. The new arrangement states that Bar will be removed from his position in 30 days or upon the appointment of a replacement Shin Bet director, whichever comes first. Netanyahu cited a, quote, persistent personal and professional distrust of Bar as the reason for his removal. Critics argue the move is an attempt to install a loyalist and shut down an ongoing probe into Netanyahu's aides and their alleged ties to Qatar. Bar strongly challenges the legitimacy of the dismissal process, stating it was hastily arranged, contrary to every basic legal rule regarding the right to a hearing and contrary to the position of the Attorney General. End quote. He argues the dismissal proposal contains only general and unfounded claims without providing specific examples of misconduct. The decision has sparked nationwide protests, with opponents accusing the government of politicizing the security agency. Bar, who had planned to resign after hostages were returned from Gaza and a state inquiry into the October 7th attack was completed, insists his dismissal is politically motivated rather than linked to the Shin Bet's failures. And the Shin Bet is Israel's internal security agency. Meanwhile, potential replacements include the agency's former deputy chief and other senior officials. Shout out to our partner BNN, or Bernie News Network, for supplying us with some of the facts and figures that you heard today. You can head over to them and get WhatsApp messages from them at bernie.news. I want to thank all of you for your interest in Israeli affairs, Israeli politics, or world politics. I also want to thank all of you who personally finance and fund the Israel Daily News podcast with monthly contributions. You can support us by going over to our new website, israeldailynews.org, and clicking on donate. There are a few options in the donate section. You have our Patreon link for a monthly donation. There's also an option for a one-time donation. Our organization is operational thanks to listeners and supporters like you. Big thank you to Marianne Vollinger for her monthly support. In response for your contributions, I'll send over a handwritten thank you note to show my appreciation. Former hostage Eli Sharabi, who was held by Hamas for 491 days, addressed the UN Security Council, condemning international organizations for their inaction. He described his abduction from Kibbutz Be'eri, where Hamas murdered his wife and daughters before taking him to Gaza, where he was starved, chained, and beaten. Sharabi also revealed that Hamas tormented him by showing him images of his brother Yossi, who died in captivity and whose body remains in Gaza. He spoke strongly about watching Hamas steal large boxes of aid and ate like kings while not feeding the hostages. And he talked a lot about his starvation and how challenging that was for him. Since his release, he has met with world leaders urging action to free the remaining 59 hostages, declaring, quote, "No more excuses, no more blindness." Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon also criticized the U.S. for failing to pass for criticizing the UN, the United Nations, for failing to pass a single resolution condemning Hamas, calling its inaction a moral collapse of the highest order. That was pretty impactful. I just want to say I am impressed and amazed by the hostages that come out of captivity and within days are up in front of world leaders pleading the case of the hostages. It is just unreal. Let's switch over to something a little lighter. Gal Gadot became the first Israeli actor to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, celebrating the milestone with her family and industry colleagues. During the ceremony, she spoke about her Israeli roots, shared that she's just a girl from a small town in Israel, and addressed her family in Hebrew, and also encouraged young people everywhere to pursue their dreams. Gadot was joined by her husband and their 4 daughters, whom she credited as her inspiration. Hollywood figures including Vin Diesel and Patty Jenkins praised her dedication, highlighting the physical challenges that she endured in honor of her roles. The event drew both pro and anti-Israel protesters right next door to her on that street while she was being honored. Some are calling for a boycott of her upcoming film Snow White, for which she plays the evil queen. The reviews are already hitting the press, and most sources are calling the film tedious. They say it's Gadot's worst performance so far. The Hollywood Reporter, however, said that it was glamorous and entertaining. Well, I'm going to see this movie in a premiere here in Israel. I'll let you know what's really up with it. You know, I always keep it real. I give you honest reviews. So I'm going to get back to you on that. And now let's hear a Torah Thought by Rabbi Yossi Madvig of Oswego, New York.
This week's Torah portion is Vayakhel, and it means that he gathered. And it's referring to Moses gathering together the Jewish people. Now, in Hebrew, there's many different words for gathering. As they say, you can tell about a community by the words they have for things, right? The famous example in the Eskimo language, there's several different words for snow and ice. And this is because their civilization is mired in that kind of terrain where they have to deal with a lot of different kinds of snow and ice. And so I think it says a lot about the Jewish community that we have lots of different words for coming together and being gathered. You know, there's Osef, Igud, Sibur, and many others. And this is Vayakhel, and he gathered, which is from the word kahila, which means a community. And the emphasis on this word is that there's a team mentality, right, where the community is greater than the sum of its parts. And it's so important for the Jewish people to come together and unite. There's a story that happened early on in my rabbinic career, where I send out fundraising letters, and I send it out to everyone. If I have your address, I send you a letter usually. And I got a response back from a person who was not Jewish. And they said, sorry, I'm not Jewish, so why would I donate? Now, I understand I'm not exactly going out and donating to a bunch of Catholic charities. It makes perfect sense. But it drove home the point to me that if the Jewish people are not going to stand up and support each other, generally speaking, the rest of the world is not going to do it for us. So let's focus on this word Vayakhel and what does it teach us? So in practical terms, there's a few things. Vayakhel represents a deeper view of the world, where the details of the physical world peel away and reveal a holistic spiritual existence, the realization that there's nothing but godliness. It also represents the quality of our divine service, because when you merge with the greater whole, the person receives a qualitatively superior experience, because now you are a member of this greater whole, this greater cause, which you could never achieve by yourself. And Vayakhel teaches us that no matter how low a person may feel, they are still a part of that entire whole community, which means that they're actually integrally and intimately associated even with the heads and the leaders of the community. A person is never alone. They're a part of something amazing, the community of the Jewish people in particular, and humanity as a whole. And as a part of that community, you are part of bringing about the redemption, the Mashiach, the Messiah, and you play an integral role in the redemption experience of the entire world. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Well, that is it for today's show. Today is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. Tel Aviv has a low of 13 degrees Celsius and a high of 16 degrees. That's 56 degrees Fahrenheit for the low, going up to 61 degrees for the high. That's a stark difference, by the way, to earlier in the week. We're getting a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and although in Israel it can rain until around Passover time, which is coming up in April, a lot of people are surprised because we had sunny summer weather just 2 days ago. Subscribe to the Israel Daily News Podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're hearing it from. We are everywhere. Don't forget to sign up to our Israel Weekly News Wrap. The Israel Weekly News Wrap is a newsletter with the top 5 stories coming out of Israel from throughout the week, and of course with a personal note from me at the top. You can sign up for that at israeldailynews.org. I'll send you off today with a song called Daleko by Erica Krall, a fabulous Russian-Israeli DJ. I love this song. I love to start my weekend with it. Have a great and productive day, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Уже иду на взлет, довези меня куда, полетели далеко, винос меня. Где-то очень далеко, далеко, далеко. Где-то очень далеко, где рычит течет вино, где живут все как в кино, ждут меня. Я бегу, бегу туда, но не знаю никуда. Утекла уже вода, мне везет. Я уже иду на взлет, довези меня куда, полетели далеко, винос меня. Где-то очень далеко, далеко, далеко. Далеко, далеко, далеко. Далеко, далеко, далеко. Далеко, далеко, далеко. слез. Я уже иду на взлет, ты вези меня в пилот. Полетели далеко, вернешь меня где-то очень-очень далеко, далеко.